Hello everyone, we have been discussing about cortical areas and their functions. We have learned about sensory cortex and its functional sub-areas. We have seen that the cerebral cortical areas are classified into sensory areas and motor areas. Today we are studying about motor areas. The motor cortex is the region of cerebral cortex located in the frontal lobe, and it is concerned with planning, control and execution of voluntary motor movements. The motor cortex is located in the frontal lobe anterior to the central sulcus. The motor cortex is comprised of primary motor area and non-primary motor area. They are designated as MS1 and MS2 respectively. Here, M in uppercase indicates that they are primarily motor in function, and S in lowercase indicates that they have some sensory function also. The primary motor cortex is present in the precentral gyrus, that is located just anterior to the central sulcus. The primary function of primary motor area is motor planning in association with multiple sensory modalities. And for that, primary motor cortex is receiving inputs directly from primary somatosensory area and sensory association area. We have learned about primary somatosensory area in one of our earlier classes. It is because of the primary somatosensory area that we are able to perceive sensory input from different parts of the body. So, primary motor area is receiving inputs from primary somatosensory area. In addition to that, primary motor area also receives inputs from sensory association area where multiple sensory modalities are integrated. Suppose we are taking a hot object. It involves processing of visual input, sensory input on perception of hot, and also somatosensory perception, that is sensory perception in relation to the position of body and surroundings. All these multiple sensory information are integrated and taken into account for planning and execution of motor movement of body parts. That is why we are able to handle hot objects with care. We have seen that there is a sensory homunculus in the sensory cortex. Similarly, the primary motor cortex is also arranged in such a way that different parts of the region are associated with motor control of different parts of the body. Thus, primary motor cortex is also said to contain a motor map which is called motor homunculus. If we give electrical stimulation to any part of the motor homunculus, there will be a corresponding movement of body part with which it is connected. In the motor homunculus, various centers for the movement of different body parts are somatotopically arranged with the head end below and leg end up. As you see here, it is arranged in the inverted manner. In addition to that, motor homunculus is contralateral. That means motor movements of the left side of the body are controlled by motor homunculus in the right cerebral hemisphere, and motor movements of the right side of the body are controlled by motor homunculus in the left cerebral hemisphere. The fact that motor homunculus is inverted is evident in the case of extradural or epidural hematoma. In extradural hematoma or hemorrhage, the blood clot spreads upward over the motor cortex. So, the lower portion of the brain will be affected first by the blood clot, and the upper portions of the brain will be affected only as the blood clot spreads upward. This causes a descending paralysis. That is, the paralysis occurs first in the face and then in the arm and finally in the leg. And it is also contralateral. Most of the neurons that travel from the primary motor cortex carrying signals regarding movement will enter any of the two major motor pathways. That is either corticospinal or corticobulbar tracts. Corticospinal tract carries movement related signals to the spinal cord to cause movement of the body, while the corticobulbar tract carries signals to the brain stem to cause movement of head, neck, and face. Next is the non-primary motor cortex. It is located anterior to the primary motor cortex. The non-primary motor cortex is subdivided into supplementary motor cortex and premotor cortex. Although the functions of these areas are not well understood, it is thought that the supplementary motor cortex may be involved with the execution of sequence of movements, the attainment of motor skills, and the selection of movements based on incoming sensory information. The premotor cortex contributes about 30% of the neurons that enter the corticospinal tract, but it seems to be more active during the planning of motor movements rather than its execution. The writing center of Exner, which coordinates writing movements, is included in the non-primary motor area. Similarly, Broca area, which is concerned with speech production, is also part of non-primary motor area. So we have discussed about all the cortical areas and their functions. Thank you.